Understand this: there's an unyielding and straightforward truth about why the law of attraction fails to manifest for most people. And it's crucial you know, if you're listening to this recording right now, chances are high that you've already felt this discouragement. You believe you're doing everything right, making affirmations, creating visualizations, nurturing aspirations, yet despite all these efforts, nothing seems to change in any substantial way. Have you ever stopped to wonder why this happens? Why do so many people dedicate themselves to reading, watching videos, attending workshops, and still can't materialize the wealth, affection, and vitality they so deeply desire? The explanation, more often than not, lies not in the requests you make to the universe, but rather in your deepest perception of who you truly are. Many decades ago, my own existence clearly reflected this very same struggle. I grew up with an extremely poor self-image. I had very little ambition, didn't finish high school, and left vocational school after a thumb injury from a saw, which led me to what I considered dead-end jobs, working in factories, at gas stations, changing tires, doing oil changes, anything to make a living. It was only when an acquaintance introduced me to Napoleon Hill's book, *Think and Grow Rich*, that a genuine transformation began to unfold. That crucial reading gave me the understanding that, regardless of the weakness of my external circumstances, true power lay in my intellect, my deepest beliefs, the mental model I held about myself. A mental model, or paradigm, functions like a deeply ingrained subconscious code. If this internal programming is flawed, it invariably compromises and invalidates everything I seek to materialize in my reality. So, if you're dedicated to making affirmations and creating mental images, but simultaneously cultivate a self-image of inadequacy, a feeling of unworthiness or failure, it's like trying to build a magnificent fortress on shaky foundations. Without repairing this mental model, without restructuring the way you perceive yourself, the law of attraction will become nothing more than an empty hope. And here's the first big, impactful revelation: the law of attraction goes beyond mere positive thinking. It's not a magic spell, nor a stroke of luck. It's, in fact, about emitting the right vibration, and that correct frequency emanates from within you, from your own perception of who you are. If your vibration reflects uncertainty, self-devaluation, financial insecurity, emotional deprivation, that is precisely the reality you will call into your life: more hesitations, more deprivations, more of every element that triggers your fear. Now, think about a scenario where a large number of individuals give up before reaching their goal. These people abandon their purposes because the process didn't produce quick results, or because the act of visualizing, unaccompanied by an inner transformation, doesn't seem to have the desired effect. The vast majority doesn't even realize that their deepest essence, their inner self, is, subtly and silently, sabotaging their own requests. This is the fundamental reason why the law of attraction doesn't manifest for 90% of people. They don't commit to the most intense and fundamental journey of self-discovery. However, the situation doesn't have to remain this way. There is an option, a possibility to redefine your mental model, to reformulate the internal record of beliefs that establishes your perceived identity. If you demonstrate the willingness to turn inward, to challenge your most ingrained beliefs, questioning, who, in fact, do I consider myself to be? Am I truly worthy of abundant wealth? Do I have the capacity to compete with others to achieve success? Then, and only then, will you be activating the true power of the law of attraction. 4. Ultimately, it's not the universe that prevents the realization of your desires. It's the limiting self-image you carry within you. And the promising news is that this perception can, indeed, be transformed. At this point, it's imperative that we deepen our investigation. You've understood why a vast number of individuals don't succeed with the law of attraction, not because of a lack of methods, but because they don't confront what lies within. And it is precisely in that place that genuine metamorphosis begins, in the reformulation of your mental model, in the redefinition of your self-image, of that hidden programming you hold in your subconscious. Over an extended period, I dedicated myself to studying the human mind with the same intensity someone would investigate the laws of the cosmos. I discovered that our inner automatic control system, the paradigm, resembles an airplane's thermostat. It controls our outcomes without us being aware of its operation. This regulator was established from our childhood, shaped by our family beliefs, by our educational upbringing, by traumatic experiences, and by repetitive patterns. And if this internal programming is tuned to scarcity, fear, uncertainty, it will continue to hold us back, even when we confidently declare, "I am worthy of prosperity." Changing this mental model is not a simple task. It took me almost 9 years to assimilate it and to catalyze this transformation within my own being. And how does one achieve such a feat? There are two paths that, based on my years of experience, have proven effective: a highly intense emotional experience, or the uninterrupted assimilation of a new concept. A profound emotional shock, whether positive or adverse, has the capacity to dismantle old programming. However, the most practical and widespread approach is repetition. You expose your subconscious to the object of your desire, repeatedly, until a new conviction becomes solidly established. Think with me, most individuals make affirmations or visualize their aspirations, but they don't commit to deep repetition. They stay in the conscious realm. They don't nurture this new concept until it integrates as a fundamental part of their internal operating system. This is why many give up prematurely, because they lack emotional commitment and genuine repetition. Additionally, there's another aspect of remarkable power: every element in the universe emits a vibration. It's a maxim I always reiterate: everything vibrates. By modifying your own inner frequency, shifting it from uncertainty to conviction, from scarcity to abundance, you initiate the process of attracting into your life elements that resonate at the same frequency. It's not magic, but a manifestation of the physics of the mind. However, to effect this frequency alteration, you need to make a choice: actively choose to align with the person you aspire to become, and not with the one you've been representing until now. Allow me, at this moment, to present you with a concrete and personal illustration I experienced. In the initial stages, after leaving the fire department, I continued to harbor a deep fear of failure. I had limited financial resources, a limited academic background, and saw myself as someone of little worth. It was only when I made the resolution to dedicate myself to listening to the same instruction, the same proposition, for long periods in my car, in rental vehicles, on public transport, that I began to recondition my subconscious. In fact, I drove my car for hours on end, absorbing the content of recordings from the book *Think and Grow Rich*, mentally reiterating the principles discussed, until the new conception of who I was began to solidify within me. This journey was arduous, demanding rigorous self-discipline, but it was at this point that the power of the inner transformation became so overwhelming that I was no longer that individual who had left the insignificant job, changing tires and doing oil changes. I ask you now, for how long have you persisted in mentally reiterating your idealization of prosperity, of success, without noticing that the root of the obstacle lies in your still unreconfigured mental model? Are you prepared to undertake this journey of deep inner work, not for just a few days, but continuously and perseveringly? If your intention is, indeed, to truly activate the law of attraction in your life, it's not enough just to have aspirations. It's fundamental to make a firm decision, practice repetition, and emit the new frequency of the person you are destined to become. And if you've followed me this far, if this explanation resonates with you, if you sense there might be something within you that needs this restructuring, then, I earnestly ask you, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel without delay. This might seem like a trivial gesture, but for me, every new subscription represents a commitment you make to your own personal growth, and for this platform, it's the lifeblood that allows us to continue transmitting knowledge and inspiring more people to reshape their mindsets. When discussing why the law of attraction doesn't work for 90% of individuals, a factor emerges that almost everyone ignores, yet it is the absolute determinant of all things: intrinsic emotional discord. People verbalize a desire for financial abundance, but they radiate a fear of losing capital. They claim to strive for triumph, yet they harbor a mindset of self-sabotage. They aspire to emancipation, but they nurture an uncontrollable dread of the responsibilities that autonomy entails. And how could one attract something that causes them apprehension? It's akin to trying to move forward with one foot on the accelerator while the other is firmly pressed on the brake. Many individuals go through life convinced that a positive mental attitude is enough. However, consider this: if you insist on uttering in your mind, "I possess prosperity," but every dawn you remember overdue financial obligations, the compensation that doesn't materialize, the uncertainty of not knowing if you'll be able to provide for your family, which of these energetic emanations is, in fact, predominating in your emotional state? It's not about mere verbal pronouncement. It's the emotion. it is invariably the feeling that prevails. The cosmos doesn't react to what you articulate, it responds to your essence, to what you emotionally experience, to what you deeply and intrinsically conceive, even in the absence of witnesses. And there's an even more intrinsic and complex aspect, the subconscious fear of one's own prosperity. Sounds illogical, doesn't it? Yet, a significant portion of humanity fears financial or life success because they associate abundance with exclusion, others envy, the imposition of new demands, the burden of responsibility, or the loss of their individuality. How many times have you witnessed someone approaching a significant breakthrough in their journey and suddenly succumbing to an emotional collapse, making hasty choices, squandering valuable opportunities, or jeopardizing relationships? This isn't misfortune. This is an established mental model. I observe this phenomenon daily. Individuals express a desire to achieve remarkable feats, but they insist on preserving a conventional way of thinking. They crave opulence, but they maintain ingrained practices of deprivation. They long to emit a high vibration, but they feed on negative news reports, harmful conversations, and comparisons that generate discomfort. The human intellect is incapable of operating on two vibratory frequencies simultaneously. You either emit a frequency aligned with your future, or a frequency consistent with your past. An intermediate position simply doesn't exist. And for you to grasp the intrinsic magnitude of this truth, allow me to present a widely known example, Jim Carrey. Prior to his ascent as a movie star, he was merely a young man whose self-confidence was shattered by destitution. He slept in his car, lacked future plans, and almost abandoned his calling. It was then that he began to apply precisely this principle, reiterating, imagining, and transforming himself internally. He visualized himself acting, he saw himself rising, he felt in high alignment. He wrote himself a check for $10 million in words and kept it in his wallet. Years later, he earned that exact amount in his first major production. Not by magic, but because he altered his energy, his conviction, and his essence. He became the individual capable of attracting that. However, there's also the opposite side. Have you ever witnessed artists who achieve immense opulence and then, suddenly, everything falls apart? It's remarkable how certain individuals acquire renown, lucrative deals, assets, and end up ruining everything because they lack the psychological framework capable of preserving such a state. They attract success, but they are incapable of retaining it. Because attracting is simple, retaining requires a robust self. This has happened to a large number of well-known personalities who saw their entire careers extinguished because they neglected their emotional balance. And this is precisely what occurs with any individual who seeks to employ the principle of attraction without modifying their fundamental perception. Furthermore, there's a scientific basis for this. Numerous studies reveal that the human mind is designed to pursue intrinsic conformity. This means, if your external existence expands faster than your internal perception of yourself, your intellect will seek to revert you to your familiar comfort zone. This is why 80% of people who win lottery prizes return to their previous financial condition within a few years. They acquired the resources, but they didn't possess the essence that matched that wealth. The issue never lies in external occurrences, it always resides in inner programming. Allow me now to share something intimate with you. There was a phase in my journey, before all the transformations began, where I accumulated more resources than I ever dreamed of. And yet, internally, I sensed that it didn't belong to me. I felt that, in some way, I wasn't worthy. And what happened, do you know? I spent everything. Without exception, everything. I magnetized opportunities and magnetized financial well-being, yet my self-image wasn't aligned with the new level. And when the constitution of your being doesn't support the outcome slips through your fingers. It was at that moment that I understood that if I didn't rebuild my inner self, I would continue repeating the same sequence of abundance and decline, abundance and decline. And that realization terrified me intensely. For this reason, I emphasize so much, it is imperative that you become the individual capable of retaining what you desire to obtain. You must experience, inspire, have faith, and exist as if you are already your future self. And if you want a significant test of strength, do this, over the next 7 days, every time you handle your cell phone or check your bank statement, softly vocalize, I am the being who engenders prosperity, who retains prosperity, and who honors prosperity. Do this with emotion. Do this with purpose. This simple action initiates the reconfiguration of the vibration you radiate daily. 4. Ultimately, it's not about asking the cosmos. It's about shaping yourself into the aspect of yourself that the universe perceives as ready. There is a juncture where everything becomes intelligible, the moment you grasp that the principle of attraction isn't about generating external outcomes, but rather about building inner harmony. I always say that existence doesn't react to what you desire, but rather to what you have become. And here lies the truth that few are willing to embrace. Most individuals strive to change their lives without changing themselves. They seek tricks, they seek shortcuts, they seek formulas, but they avoid introspecting and confronting what truly restricts them. Human nature harbors an intrinsic fear of confronting its own beliefs. A hidden fear of realizing that perhaps what prevents you from progressing isn't the government, isn't your job, isn't the economy, but rather yourself. And that perception is painful. There persists an immense emotional reluctance to admit that we are the architects of the vibration we project. However, it is only by embracing that responsibility that transformation, at last, begins. And I ask you, how many times have you postponed an aspiration because you judged yourself incapable? How many favorable opportunities did you neglect because you believed they weren't for you? How many times did you witness others' success and attribute it to luck, instead of questioning what existed in the essence of that individual that facilitated such an outcome? This occurs with the vast majority of human beings, not out of malice, but because we have been conditioned to believe that we are mere players in destiny, and not the creators of our own existence. Programming is so influential that it sculpts your ideas, your developments, your attitude towards the universe. Scientific research attests that more than 90% of your daily thoughts are recurrent, spontaneous, and stem from your emotional state. And if your thoughts are repetitive and negative, how is it possible to foresee that your frequency will be constructive? If your feelings are of apprehension, how is it conceivable that your frequency will be expansive? The equation doesn't add up. Allow me, now, to present a compelling paradigm: Oprah Winfrey. She emerged from the direst poverty, experienced abuse, faced prejudice, and yet built one of the greatest fortunes in entertainment. For what reason? Because she determined that she would not allow her past to dictate her identity. She changed her inner concept. She rebuilt her self-perception. She transformed herself into the female figure capable of embracing everything she desired. And this demonstrates, unquestionably, that power doesn't reside in the external environment, it resides in the internal universe. However, there is also the counterexample. Reflect on notorious personalities who experienced a meteoric rise, but emotionally collapsed upon achieving glory and opulence. History is replete with such examples. Individuals who possess talent, opportunities, resources, but lack the emotional bedrock to shoulder the burden of their own greatness. When your inner core is limited, and your external results are vast, collapse becomes virtually inevitable. Because existence cannot take root where consciousness fails to reside. This is why I assert, you will never retain what your intellect doesn't believe you deserve. And as long as you persist in self-analysis through a limited lens, you will continue to attract modest outcomes. Resonance doesn't lie. Resonance never errs. It precisely materializes what you perceive yourself to be. And mark this. I didn't grasp this truth in a comfortable setting. I grasped it when I was alone, driving an old beat-up car, listening to the same talks for extended periods, mentally echoing sentences I didn't yet believe, but was determined to trust. That unwavering resolve sustained me. Because, at its core, there comes a moment when you absolutely must choose, with genuine conviction, who you are destined to become. The choice is the initial spark. Repetition is the fuel. The outcome is the undeniable culmination. And now I want to offer you a simple, yet incredibly powerful, challenge. Over the next 3 days, each time you feel fear, uncertainty, or unease about money, pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself, is this my future trying to unfold, or is it my old mindset trying to pull me back? That single question alone begins to erode the dominance of your old patterns. Because by recognizing the voice that limits you, its power diminishes. And by empowering the voice that expands you, you begin to resonate differently. This is how transformation truly begins, with discernment, repetition, and emotional courage. The law of attraction doesn't fail. What often fails is the will to change what lies beneath what you're attracting. Life waits to provide for you on a far grander scale, but first, you must learn to see yourself as worthy of so much more. There's an almost imperceptible moment when life truly shifts. It's not when you finally achieve what you've been striving for. It's not when resources appear, when opportunities arise, or when relationships improve. Life transforms before all that. It shifts at the exact moment you reconfigure how you perceive yourself. The law of attraction isn't broken, it simply aligns faithfully with the inner image you hold of yourself. And for most people, that internal representation is far too small to reflect the aspirations they claim to hold. And perhaps you can relate to this. Maybe there's a time you felt so close, yet so far from your desired outcome. Have you ever noticed how life sometimes seems to grant you a glimpse of what's possible, only to snatch it all away unexpectedly? That's not bad luck. It's not fate playing tricks on you. It's your worldview trying to guide you back to what's familiar, to the level it considers your normal. And why does this happen? Because the human intellect is wired to seek consistency. Even if that consistency is unhelpful. Even if what you know is limited, painful, or constrained, your mind will choose the familiar over the new. Numerous studies show that our neural system responds to emotional growth in the same way it reacts to a threat. This isn't because progress is inherently dangerous, but because it's new star. And the new frightens those who haven't made progress a habit. Consequently, when you try to attract abundance with a mindset accustomed to scarcity, you experience a clash of frequencies. Your desires pull you in one direction, while fear tugs you in the opposite. You're filled with optimism for a few moments, but quickly the old pattern reasserts itself. What if it doesn't work? What if I make the same mistake again? What if I lose all my money? And when those thoughts overpower your vision, your energy drops. With diminished energy, you stop attracting what you desire and instead begin to summon what you fear. Let me reveal a profound truth: the universe doesn't give you what you ask for, it delivers what you ****. It's not enough to simply want prosperity. You must become the kind of environment where prosperity feels at home. You must build within yourself a sanctuary where abundance is not a stranger, where self-worth is not a foreign concept, where security isn't a fleeting guest, but an enduring essence. To do this, it's crucial that you learn to take action even when you don't feel ready. No one ever feels prepared before they take that first step forward. Preparation comes later. It shows up the moment you act despite your fears, despite your uncertainties, despite the past that insists on holding you captive. I've experienced this countless times myself. There were moments I'd look in the mirror and declare things that felt far too grand for my current abilities. Yet, I persisted in the repetition. I kept affirming. I maintained that vibrational frequency, even when it felt utterly out of reach. And it was that quiet perseverance that completely reshaped the situation. Because the consistency of your emotions acts as the bridge between your current identity and the one you aspire to become. And if you'll allow me one final suggestion, I want to propose an experiment that, if truly put into practice, will begin to significantly reconfigure your energy field. Over the next 7 days, choose just one initiative that symbolizes the person you intend to become. It doesn't have to be grand, just consistent. It could be waking up 30 minutes earlier, organizing your finances in a journal, taking a walk while listening to enriching content, setting aside a small sum for investments, practicing gratitude first thing in the morning, or visualizing your goal for 120 seconds before falling asleep. The key is that this action reflects who you aspire to be, not who you've been up until now. Because by acting as the future manifestation of your own essence, the universe begins to recognize you as that very manifestation. And once that occurs, doors swing open. New paths reveal themselves. Important people emerge. Possibilities that once seemed invisible begin to shine brightly before your eyes. None of these occurrences are mere chance. It's a matter of resonance. It's about who you know yourself to be. It's the alignment between your emotions and what you attract. And as you allow these concepts to solidify within you, remember that this profound internal shift that began here shouldn't remain exclusive to you. There's always someone, somewhere, facing their own unique struggle, searching for a fresh perspective, yearning for a spark of insight, and perhaps this message is precisely what that person needs to take their next step forward. If someone came to mind just now, even if subtly, honor that nudge. Share this message with that dear one. Small actions have the power to redefine entire life paths. Thank you for being here, for dedicating this time to your personal growth. And rest assured, I'll be waiting for you in the next broadcast as we continue this journey together.